Okay, so in this video, we're going to do problems 5 and 6 because they focus on law of cosines. So let's do that. Okay, so given the information about the triangle below, find the length of side B. Okay, so A is equal to 8. C is equal to 12. B is equal to 32, or excuse me, 62. Okay, all right. So using the law of sines, you have to know what law of sines, or excuse me, law of cosines look like. So law of cosines starts with a side, b squared. Okay, so there are two other forms of that, just rearranging the letters. I'm going to write them over here. I like law of cosines. The thing about it is it's usually just kind of a substitute. There, you can't build a second triangle like law of sines. Oops. There we go. All right. So the biggest thing with law of cosines that you need to be aware of is that it's b squared, not b. So you got to make sure that you take the square root at the very end. Okay, here we go. So I'm just substituting in 8 squared, c squared, minus 2, 8, 12, and then cosine of 62. Now, depending on your calculator, you can type this in all at once. Or you might need to do some simplifying first. It just kind of depends on your skill level. Now, when you're typing things into your calculator, you do have to be aware that your calculator does obey the order of operations. So just be careful. Okay, so 64 plus 144, 208. Okay, now I'm going to multiply a negative 192 by a cosine of 62. Okay, so I'm doing it like my calculator can't handle all this information. A little bit of rounding. Okay, and now I'm ready to take the square root. So 10.856. And there's law of cosines. Okay, so the next question, number 6, is also law of cosines, but it's the situation where you have the three sides. Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can handle this. All right, given the information about the triangles below, find the measure of angle A. Okay. All right, since I want angle A, I'm going to use this form. Like that. Okay, so now depending on, kind of your brain, I would solve this thing for cosine of a first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the b squared and then the c squared from both sides. And I'm going to get a squared minus b squared minus c squared. I'm going to get something that looks like that. Then I'm going to divide by 2bc, negative. Okay, so now I have cosine of a is equal to a squared minus b squared minus c squared all over negative 2bc. Now, that negative is troublesome because sometimes if you look it up in a textbook, you will actually see the question look like this. So what they did is they took that negative 1 times 2, and they moved it to the top and distributed a negative 1 through. These are equivalent. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and plug everything in. So let's see. I'm going to use the form on that one. Form on the right. Okay, so 23 squared plus 18 squared minus 8 squared, 2 times 23 times 18. Okay, so now I'm going to do some simplification. I will have to use cosine inverse. Okay, so you had 789 on the top, then 828 on the bottom. So if I take the cosine inverse of both sides, I get 17.655 or 17.7 degrees. Okay. All right. So again, we're going to do the next two questions in our next video.